Please sit comfortably. So at the close of each evening of session, we actually hear the chant from the Eno, these words coming from the dark. The sky of Samadhi and the moonlight of wisdom form the temple of our practice. Our friends and family members guide us on the ancient path. We dedicate the virtues of reciting Hakuin Zenji's Song of Zazen or Shitao Shishuan's taking part in the gathering to Linji, to Hakuin, but importantly to the Dharma and to the protectors of our sacred hall. When we are truly practicing, truly sitting, where isn't our sacred hall? Everywhere we go is a sacred footstep, if you like, a sacred breath, a sacred movement in the air. And when I say sacred, I'm not distinguishing between holy or profane. Sacred goes deeper than that. Sacred simply means important, vital, something to touch with our own lives, beyond doubt, beyond any kind of reckoning with the mind. You might recall on the very opening night of Sesshin, I raised the case of Jiao Zhou, where a monk came up to him and asked, "What is the practice hall?" This is like asking, what is the sacred hall? Where is it that we practice? And Jiao Zhou said, "From the practice hall you have come. From the practice hall you will go. Everything, everywhere is the practice hall. There is no other place." Now, if this isn't a call to practice, a charge of practice, I don't know what is. To say that we don't actually leave this practice hall. Every time we take a full and complete and wholehearted breath, we're in the practice hall. We're sustaining the practice hall. We are protecting the practice hall. So protecting the practice hall relies on what we call samadhi. Samadhi really means meditation, zazen. In particular, it's referring to that settled, serene, stable, absolutely grounded and seamless degree of meditation that we can reach, particularly in Sesshin. Kynan called it alert, undazzled, intelligent, empty. The Buddha calls it the sublime abiding, this samadhi, this deep samadhi that we are here to realize, to touch, to settle, to convey, and to actualize as our lives. So the service that we hear each night continues. It says, the sky of, well, this is actually how it begins. The sky of samadhi and the moonlight of wisdom form the temple of our practice. What's this sky of samadhi? A sky of samadhi. Well, perhaps you can readily imagine the sky, the great, big, wide, blue, open sky. Australia is very good, great, big, wide, open skies. Particularly winter, actually, when the clouds move, across and part a little bit, you can see that astonishing blue. It's almost a hard blue, but it's empty. And it allows every single cloud, bird, wisp, just to blow right through. It has no resistance to such things. It's clear and it's bright. The moonlight of wisdom brings across the sense of the dark of the night, in which this great eye of practice just glows gently at all time. This is really bowing to a kind of full moon of mind. This moonlight that just is allowed to settle on each and everything, not picking and choosing. Just at rest on grass tips, on leaves, on rivers, on seas. This moonlight does not distinguish. This is great ease and equanimity, you might say. Again, not picking and choosing, not playing favourites, just letting the world bathe in awareness, you might say. Now, if these states of samadhi sound difficult to attain, they are. They are. We need help. We actually gather together in this sacred hall to make it easier, to actually make it possible. We need friends along the way. We need family along the way. We need these guides to help us find the ancient path, to actually provide a kind of sure footing for our practice. A good friend in Buddhist practice is called a Kalyana Mitra. It's a beautiful word, even just to say, Kalyana Mitra. It means spiritual friend, friend of the way, heart friend, somebody that you can truly travel with along the path. And of course, we're all Kalyana Mitra here. Every single one of us. Spiritual friends. Taking care of this sacred business with each other. And how wonderfully well we do this in the context of a session. There's no moment where we don't reveal a kind of dear friendship to each other, even when we're doing clumsy things or even when we're doing annoying things. It's like listening to people speak and you think, do they really think we can't hear them? And then you think, oh, but how wonderful. My Kalyana Mitra, here they are. And back to Zazen, back to Zazen. And then there are, of course, all of those wonderfully simple acts of kindness, simple acts of kindness and care that are just written all through the building here, all through the grounds here, actually. I love it when you just see the dishes have all been put away. Or you might see that little cap on the milk bottle there is just screwed on again. Someone did that. One of us did that. We'll never know who. There's so much gratitude that comes with knowing that you share this path with others. And knowing that somehow when we're in a session, it's like being put into a kind of rock tumbler. We're all rolled around together and any of our sharp edges begin to get slowly chipped off and sanded down. We do become smoother in practice. We do become more tolerant. We do become more appreciative of each other and our foibles and our quirks. In fact, there's nothing like a Zen eccentric. We celebrate them, all of our ancestors, all those wacky things that they did. We just love it. They are Kalyana Mitra, friends of the way. And home's no different, is it? Thinking of protectors of our sacred hall, think of all the people at home who've allowed us to be here, who've actually opened the way for us. Without their support, this would not be possible. They somehow believe in what we hold dear. They somehow respect that, even if they don't say so. They have actually opened the door of home so that we can flow into this sacred hall, so that we can have this time together. And that's to be valued. That's to be acknowledged. But even in the home, Toro Zenji actually speaks about who is not reverently grateful for the protections of life, food, drink, and clothing. Every day at home is spent being reverently grateful, is it not, for food, drink, and clothing, these things that protect us. And we are also at the same time protecting them. We are the ones preparing the food, sharing the drinks, washing and ironing the clothing, making sure that day after day this home life can be sustained, can be continued in a way that's nurturing for all of the people that might be living in that home. And one of the other wonderful things about the people with whom we share our homes with is that if we stray from our attention to detail, they let us know. In fact, I remember coming home after a long day at work and discovering a huge pile of washing that needed to be hung up on the clothes horse. And I just turned to my wife and said, I don't think I should have to do that. And she said, you're right. The fairies should do it. And we love this idea, don't we, that the fairies are going to do it. Someone else is going to do it. It's all going to be taken care of by somebody else. I'm starting to think of all of the mod cons in our life as kind of fairies, kind of electric fairies. Some of them I like an electric iron. I don't mind that fairy. Or the washing machine, or I've got a little heater in my study, which in winter I like very much, a little blow heater. But in 2026, it starts to feel like we've reached peak fairy. Peak fairy. I'm amazed sometimes even walking into a modern kitchen, you don't even need to close the drawers anymore. You just touch them and then they close. And I think, was it that hard to close a drawer? I don't remember that being hard. But now the fairies are doing it. And you don't even need to shop anymore. You just click a button on your computer and things arrive at your doorstep. There's no risk of meeting somebody down the street or having a spontaneous conversation or hearing about somebody's life over the zucchinis in the fruit supply. All that is carefully taken care of by this modern drive for frictionless existence. And this goes all the way through to thinking. We've actually reached a point now where if you wanted, you wouldn't have to think anymore. You can just ask AI or one of these chatbots to summarise the document or to read the article for you or to paint you that picture or write you that poem or solve all of the problems of the world. What happened to actually creating things ourselves? What actually happened to lending ourselves to this world and listening in to what it might want so that we can build and contribute in ways that are compatible, not done by fairies, but done by us? So the world has changed. We are in the very midst of a great change. It's not the first time the world's changed. We've had industrial revolutions, we've had gold ages, bronze ages, stone ages. There have been all sorts of turnings in human life. But this one brings with it, I think, a very real risk that we may lose a sense of the sacred. We may actually lose a sense of what it is to truly be here as a human being. Because all of these fairies, all of these mod cons are making it increasingly irrelevant to be a human being. At least a full, complete, earthy, very frictioned human being. Which is why this evening ceremony has really leapt out to me at this session. Each time I've heard it. Particularly that end part, as I've said, where it talks about dedicating the merit of reciting our sutras and our zazen and being here to the Dharma and to the protectors of our sacred hall. We don't talk about these protectors much. It's got that edge of superstitious to it. But in every Dharma hall of old, there were said to be 4 major protectors, one for north, south, east, and west. And they were symbolically gathered around Mount Sumeru, the centre of the Buddhist universe, the centre of the kind of Buddhist imaginary, you might say. And these Dharma protecting deities, at each of these poles, if you like, would check what came in and what went out. They would watch. They would watch and listen in to what came in and what went out. They were paying deep and abiding attention to each and every one of us. And they still do. They still do when we step into a sacred place. They notice what comes in and what steps out. Now, there are also said to be 10 presiding Dharma protectors. 10 presiding Dharma protectors of the 10 directions. And that's north, south, east and west, plus the intermediate poles, plus up and down. Everywhere. Everything, everywhere, all at once. So these Dharma protecting deities protect us wherever we go. They are with us at all points. And they are listening into what's coming in, what's going out. Is there coming and going here? Is there leaving practice, stepping into practice? What's going on? How can we actually protect this practitioner's practice? That's the business of the 10 deities. And some of these deities are quite fierce. You might have seen some of the Tibetan deities. They have almost blue-black faces, big teeth, sometimes swords, big scowls on their faces. And they're there to frighten away the demons, frighten away all the temptations that might lure us away from practice. And even though they look fearsome, like Achala, he's one of the favoured, one of these wrathful deities, even though they look fierce, they are fierce because they're protecting something important. They're protecting our practice. Sometimes our practice does need to be fierce. Sometimes we really do need to take ourselves in hand to make sure that we do sit today, and then do sit today, and then do sit today. And not slack off from that, thinking that we're somehow sliding around something. Practice is an everyday activity. And so to frighten off those temptations is not a bad thing to be able to do. And that's what the Dharma protecting deities with their swords and their armour and their medallions are doing. But again, coming back to this year, 2026, anybody who is even glancingly noticing the news or following politics or looking around their local community at what's going on may well ask themselves, where have all the Dharma protecting deities gone? Where are they? I thought I could depend on them, but where are they? Where have they gone? How is it that so much damage could be happening right before my eyes? Well, in the lead up to this session, I shared a case from the record of Empty Hall that features the teacher Feng Shui asking Venerable Guanghui Zhen this question. He says, during the Huichang persecution, which we looked at actually in the course of this session, that great, terrible, tumultuous time where so many monks and nuns were defrocked and sent back into so-called ordinary life. During the Huichang persecution, where did all the Dharma protecting deities go? And the Venerable responded this way. He said, always within the gated walls of the marketplace. Probably, at the time, no one saw. So clearly these Dharma protecting deities were flushed out of the temples as they were burnt down. as sacred places were destroyed, where else could they go? They had to find themselves mixed up in the hurly-burly of everyday life, caught up in everyday activity, part of our ordinary everyday lives. And I think of Layman Pang in this context. He is somebody who left monasteries, could step in, step out, but was happy to mix in the kind of world of not ordinary, not extraordinary, not lay, not monastic, not holy, not profane, but all mixed up together. And these Dharma protecting deities, I can see right now, are mixed up in all of our lives in this kind of fashion. They're with us on the streets. They're with us in the supermarket. They're with us picking up the kids from school. They're with us in the hospital visiting a sick friend. They're with us wherever we go in daily life. So, what the Venerable is really pointing to here is, if we really look, we discover that the Dharma protecting deities are so mixed up that they're not distinguishable from who we are. We, in fact, are the Dharma protecting deities. They're mixed up in us. They're mixed up in our lives. We now have to take up the responsibility of looking after our practice, even in the busyness of the marketplace. So this is important work to do, and it's hard work to do. To protect a practice and sustain a practice takes a dedicated and devoted kind of work. And what kind of work is this? Well, I think at the very least, there's the urgent work of reacquainting ourselves with the earth, with coming back to ground, with coming back to the natural world. So much of that has been literally bulldozed in front of our eyes. And yet, if we think in our imagination of a sacred hall, don't you almost immediately picture a towering forest, one of these Tasmanian forests? What could be a clearer image of sacred hall than just being present in that kind of cathedral of wonder, mystery, beauty? Coming back to the earth in this time, I think, is one of our true responsibilities as bodhisattvas, as Dharma protecting deities. We must relearn how to protect the earth. And there's a case that touches on this in a very interesting way. This comes from Entangling Vines. And it talks about Dongshan, the old teacher Dongshan, meeting an earth spirit. Here's how the case goes. Although Dongshan spent his entire life at the temple, the local earth spirit, search though he might, couldn't locate so much as a trace of him. Then one day, Dongshan noticed some grain scattered on the ground in front of the kitchen. He became angry and said, "How could community supplies be wasted like this?" At that moment, the earth spirit finally detected him and paid homage. Mm-hmm. Interesting case. Mm-hmm. So Dongshan had been living, obviously, harmoniously with the mountain. The earth spirit must have heard about him, being the local earth spirit, must have heard about this interesting character, Dongshan, probably from all those chattering monks moving around and making a lot of noise. But he never caught sight of him. The local earth spirit had never actually seen him. And this is interesting because when we're truly sitting, when we're truly in a state of samadhi, in that sublime abiding, when we're really in accord with place, then there's no me. There's no me to be seen. There's no one in the way. Everything still gets done. The body still moves around. But there's no self, there's no I, there's no interference with this great collaboration of being complete with the Dharma. So you might take it up in this sense that there was nothing for the earth spirit to see. Everything was just moving along seamlessly. Nothing to spot, nothing to extract from Dongshan's complete belonging to place. But when Dongshan sees those wasted supplies on the ground, he becomes angry. How do you see him here? He is lamenting the fact that communal supplies are being wasted. And he suddenly roars with a kind of anger. How could this happen? Who could let this happen? This is not the way to live, he's saying. Do you see this as a kind of indulgent anger? Or is there something perhaps clean about it? Is there something actually protective about it? A kind of righteous anger that is looking after the mountain, is looking after the supplies, looking after the monks. We say that greed, hatred and ignorance rise endlessly. I vow to abandon them. They do rise endlessly. We learn to quieten that down. But there are times where anger is completely appropriate, completely fitting. And I know that there are so many people in this room who will relate to this specifically. How can you protect the world if you're not somehow angry at the way it is being mistreated? Think of the clear felling, think of the greed, think of the blindness towards all the many beings that inhabit those places that are just so casually wiped off the grid, wiped off the map. Whether it's cable cars, or the forests, or polluted rivers, or the unchecked suburban expansion, there's plenty to be angry about at this moment. But let's be clear, this is not the kind of anger that comes from habitual reactivity. This is a protective anger. This is an anger that, when it appears, allows the earth spirit to see the human of Dongshan, see how human he is, but bow in homage, bow in a way as saying, thank you. Thank you for living well. Thank you for keeping quiet. Thank you for treading lightly. And thank you for protecting the earth for all of us. So the value of this story, I think, is that it emphasises that right action, even this righteous anger, can flow naturally out of zazen, naturally out of samadhi. It's not a self-absorbed action. It's action from absorption in the Dharma, in samadhi. You might say it's action within the sky of samadhi, and that it is an expression of the moonlight of wisdom, looking after the communal supplies, looking after the sacred hall. And when we take care, when we're moved to practice in this kind of way, all of these minor transgressions that we see, and even the major transgressions that we see, they do hurt. They do hurt. It's not that we need to shout and bark or do anything like that, but we can actually allow ourselves to feel that pain and then respond, find a way to respond. But feeling the pain is important. And I'll share with you a poem that touches on this from Ada Limon again. This is called Power Lines. 3 guys in fluorescent vests are taking down a tree along my neighbour's fence line, which is, of course, my fence line, with my 2 round snakes and my wandering raccoon. That is, if you go in for ownership, my. For weeks, the tree they're cutting grew tight with a neon pink band around its trunk. A marking so you knew it was going to die. Must have been at least 50 years old, a non-fruiting mulberry with loads of winter creeper crawling up the bark. Still, it hung low by the power lines, its fruitless limbs leaning over the wire like it didn't care one bit about power. Just inching up towards the sun under the hackberry. The men are laughing between chainsaw growls, the metal jaws of machinery. It is a sound that sounds like killing. I can barely listen. But then they are conversing in Spanish, and it brings me a mercy to hear them make a joke about the heat, the line-up of jobs that day. Once my friend Mundo wanted palm fronds in his patio, so he put on an orange shirt and climbed a towering palm right into the centre of town. No one ever questions a Mexican in an orange shirt, he said. And we clinked glasses around his new tiki bar. My grandfather worked for Con Edison for years. I thought power was something you could control. Something one could do at a desk or on a job site, to work in the field of power. Now the tree is gone. The men are gone. Just a ground down stump where what felt like wisdom once was. It's this wisdom of the world as it is that we risk cutting down with our rush to comfort, our rush for ease, our rush for having fairies attend to everything for us. So, to come back to the sanity of our practice, how might we do this? Well, part of this, I think, is actually coming back to realising that if we are the Dharma protecting deities, why not find some more Dharma protecting deities and join in? Why not actually group together and take part in that gathering? Join forces with some of the other Dharma protecting deities in the marketplace. This could be a local group of resistance to something. It might be speaking up for the voiceless. It might be dedicating yourself to the teachings of trees or of ants or of clouds or of the ocean. All the while maintaining your zazen, all the while protecting the silence at the heart of your zazen, the silence from which all of the genuine teachings come. You might say that all of this is being with what is, I respond to what is. Being with what arises, I can find the appropriate response to what is needed. Not the imagined response, but the one being called forth by our pain, by our lament, by our righteous anger. And I'll leave you with this credo tonight, seeing as we're all going to be returning to the world from this point on as Dharma protecting deities, protecting the Dharma for each other, protecting the Dharma for the well-being of the world. Here's Rebecca Solnit, who in one of her most recent books gives what she calls a credo. It's a kind of instruction, an encouragement for stepping back out into the world. This is what she says. They want you to feel powerless and to surrender and to let them trample everything, and you are not going to let them. You are not giving up, and neither am I. The fact that we cannot save everything does not mean we cannot save anything, and everything we can save is worth saving. You may need to grieve or scream or take time off, but you have a role no matter what. And right now, good friends and good principles are worth gathering in. Remember what you love. Remember what loves you. remember in this tide of hate what love is. The pain you feel is because of what you love. People kept the faith in the dictatorships of South and Central America in the 1970s and 80s, in the East Bloc countries and the USSR. Women are protesting right now in Iran, and people there are writing poetry. There is no alternative to persevering, and that does not require you to feel good. You can keep walking whether it's sunny or raining. Take care of yourself, and remember that taking care of something else is an important part of taking care of yourself. Because you are interwoven with the 10 trillion things in this single garment of destiny that has been stained and torn, but is still being woven and mended and washed. So thank you for your trouble.